How fun. We get to be at the Biohacking Congress
Yes.
in Las Vegas.
Here we are.
I feel so honored to be sitting with you here, Victor.
Likewise.
So fun. I mean, it's like we have so many things in common and we have shared so many like experiences. But today, I really want to get into the topic of deuterium depleted water because it's something that there's a buzz about, people are starting to hear about, but they still don't really understand. And I'm all about educating. It's not like you have to do deuterium depleted water or any type of water. It's all about let's educate people so they can make a choice for themselves and decide what feels good for them, right?
Exactly.
But you and I are on the deuterium depleted train. We've been doing it for a while and really enjoy it. But can you explain to everybody what is deuterium depleted water? Let's talk about it from a chemistry standpoint because there's so many aspects of it. So first let's go into the chemistry.
So deuterium depleted water is water without deuterium. So for that you need to know what deuterium is, right? Or water that's reduced in deuterium. So deuterium is an isotope of hydrogen. For people that don't know what an isotope is, just a version of an element. It's different. So deuterium happens to be the heavier version of hydrogen. Actually, it's twice the mass of regular hydrogen. Now that wouldn't matter so much except that it also binds with oxygen to create water. So we know water is H2O, but when you have deuterium, it's HDO.
Yes.
Okay, and that makes the water slightly different.
Many people haven't heard of that. Most people just know, like, you think of water and you think of H2O.
Yeah.
So this is, like, mind-blowing to people just in what you're saying right now.
Yeah, so in a liter of water...
when I drink a cup of water, I'm drinking H2O, HDO...
and a bunch of other configurations of the oxygen isotope as well. So you have probably about 63 different configurations of water.
Yeah.
I think that's correct. But
that's, like, such news to people.
It is, and so you have we call our deuterium depleted water light water, because it actually is physically LITE, yeah, but it actually is physically lighter. So if you have a liter of regular water, reverse osmosis or water you buy at the store, bottled water, and you have our water, which is 94 to 97% deuterium depleted, and you put it on a scale. You'll notice that there's a 300 milligram difference in weight.
Really? How much it weighs? So it literally weighs
It's heavy.
less.
Yeah, there's water and then there's heavy water. But the problem, the contaminant inside our water supply is semi-heavy water, which is that HDO. So in a glass of water, you probably have 3 drops of it. But because
which sounds like nothing.
Doesn't sound like much.
Yeah. It's like, what's the big deal?
But because we're made up of water, it actually has probably 5 to 7 times more. Our body has, or measured in the blood, has 5 to 7 times more deuterium than the basic constituents that we need for life: glucose, potassium, magnesium, calcium, so forth and so on. So this is prevalent throughout our bodies.
Yeah.
So we are loaded with this stuff. Now our bodies try to manage it, try to keep it out of our energy producing pathways, which is the mitochondria. And inside the mitochondria you have the electron transport chain.
Because our body's smart and knows it doesn't want deuterium in there. It's like, this is screwing up all of the mitochondria. It's too heavy for the nanomotors. The body knows it, right?
The body knows
working
it.
hard
The
to
body,
keep it out.
the body's trying to keep it out, but eventually it can't.
Yeah.
And I think what happened is over the last 10, 20,000 years, we've had an increase of deuterium on our planet.
Okay.
So where this discovery came from was in the 50s in Siberia. They were trying to figure out why 2 populations had this increased longevity.
Okay.
They had 6 times more centenarians, people over 100 years old, than anywhere else in the Soviet republics or Europe for that matter. So 324 people per 1 million were centenarians, and living in a very harsh environment, primarily like an Eskimo type environment, very, very cold. And they wanted to know why these people were so much healthier and lived longer. Was it the food? Was it the air? What was it?
Yeah.
And they honed in on the water. Okay. And then they, after doing testing, they honed in on deuterium. Deuterium was something that was only discovered in 1931, so it was still very fresh, very new. So they looked at this and they saw that the people that were drinking the water that they were drinking was 16% lower in deuterium than average water.
16%. So just so people understand, what is that in parts per million? Because we measure it a lot in parts per million.
That's
so
right.
Most
That's
people
right.
are about
So,
150 parts per million.
Right. Most of our drinking water on the planet, with some exception, is about 150 ppm.
And seawater is like 155.
155.76.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the Vienna Standard mean ocean water. That's what it's known as.
So that's like a baseline, so people kind of understand.
That's the baseline.
Okay.
Yeah. And then drinking water, like in LA, it's 150.
Yeah.
Whether you put it through reverse osmosis, whether you put it through your distiller, whether you drink it from the tap,
So
it's
if
going to be
you-
150.
Right, whether you're drinking spring water
Yeah.
or whatever it is. So if you tested, which I tested, if anybody tests, the average person's going to be about 150 parts per million right now, on
Yeah.
average.
On average.
Depending on where you live.
Some less.
Because like Chris
Yeah.
Shade lives in Colorado, and before he even started doing it, he was more like
140.
140.
140.
Because the water he's
Because the
drinking.
tap water there is 139.
Yeah.
You know, which is incredibly beneficial over time.
Yeah.
So when these scientists figured this out, you know, they tested if it was true. They did tests on plants, animals, everything.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they found that if you have less deuterium, everything grows healthier, faster, especially generation after generation. And then when you introduce heavy water
Deuterium.
or more semi-heavy water, then it slowed down life processes.
Well, I did a little
So-
test with that. So I had these roses, and I took the roses and I put.
That's right. That's right.
I put 11 of them in regular water. Actually, like more of like a spring water. And then I put the next one of them in just the deuterium depleted water, and it lasted 22 days, whereas the other ones died after a week.
How interesting.
Yeah. So I was like, I mean, that's just obviously you got to keep testing things in science and see if you keep coming up with the same result. But that was like kind of awakening for me. Like, wow.
No, deuterium slows down life, right? It's an anti-life element.
Yeah.
It's not really needed by anything.
Right.
So, but it's in our water, it's in our food supply, and over time, like I said, the deuterium level on this planet has been increasing. So if you get your levels down to around where these people are,
Yeah. And where were they? So parts per million.
about in the mid 130s.
They were in the 130s.
130s, okay.
So
and
it
then in
doesn't
some
sound
places,
like a lot. It's
doesn't sound like a lot, but over time,
Yeah.
it's accumulative. The benefit is immense
Okay.
because it's you're talking about energy here.
Yeah. Right.
So
So when you say accumulative, this is an important thing to note because it's more of a lifestyle we're wanting to try to commit to, is getting our deuterium levels down for life.
Yeah,
Because just
because-
one day of having it down is like, okay, well that's great, but
what about tomorrow?
Yeah, what about tomorrow? What about like our bodies are aging? So this is something, so that's where we want to get into, is like, how do we do that for an extended period of time? And or how does anybody actually start to deplete their levels?
Yeah, it's a lifestyle intervention for sure. You know, well, you start by drinking deuterium depleted water.
That's the fastest way.
That's the
to
fastest
lower
way.
it.
Yeah, you can lower deuterium slightly by being ketogenic, by fasting, exercise, red light exposure, just all the things you would do to be healthy anyway, right?
To help your mitochondria be healthier.
Yeah, because they naturally try to filter this stuff
Yes.
out,
Yeah.
but they just can't.
Yeah.
So every 7 seconds, the motors that make these ATP synthase nanomotors that exist in the trillions in our cells inside the mitochondria, every 7 seconds they get impinged upon by
Okay.
this deuterium. And the reason it destroys the motors is because the motors, they run on protons,
Mhm.
right? And when you have a proton and a neutron come together, it doesn't fit. So
Yeah.
it destroys, so it breaks down the motor over
Yeah.
time. It causes it to stutter.
It's too heavy.
It's
Right.
it's too big.
Yeah.
It's too much mass.
I think Laszlo Sporos explained it like, if these football players are playing with this normal football, and all of a sudden we give them one twice the size,
Or
they're
twice
gonna
the
be
weight.
fumbling,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
It's like
twice the weight.
fumble.
Yeah, you're not
And that's
gonna-
what's happening in the nanomotors of our mitochondria. It's like fumble, like, right? So you can't handle
I
it.
like to explain it as, it's a kiss, elbow to the face.
Oh, wow.
Over and over and over and
It
over and
doesn't
over.
sound nice.
It doesn't sound. The
Yeah.
kiss sounds nice, but the elbow to the face doesn't sound nice at all. But this is what's happening cumulatively.
Yeah.
So you just
the
wanna
regular hydrogen, so the hydrogen that
Well, hydrogen has 3 forms.
it has these.
It's 3
So it's
forms.
hydrogen, and then we have deuterium, and then we have tritium, which is
Tritium.
very rare.
Very
so it's
rare,
not
yeah.
something to really think about, but
Right.
but the deuterium is there, and so it's these forms that we don't want those other forms, but the hydrogen is so good for us. It's like the best antioxidant there is. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
And only 0.0125%.
But it's like an imposter hydrogen in our body, right? All of a sudden, it's like, wait, what is this?
It's an imposter. That's a good
Your
way
body's
to put it.
like,
It's a good way to put
hydrogen, I love it, I want it. And then it's like, wait a minute, oh no, this is not the hydrogen that we love.
it. And this has probably been overlooked because it's 0.0125% of all hydrogen
Yeah.
is deuterium.
Yeah.
So it was overlooked until
Recently.
until recently.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. Like, it wasn't discovered until the 1930s because,
Deuterium wasn't discovered until 31.
yeah, that's
They
crazy.
didn't before that. They didn't know that hydrogen had different isotopes,
Yeah.
and because of that discovery, it ushered in the atomic age. You wouldn't have an atomic bomb or a nuclear power plant without.
Well, that's why the
without
Russians
deuterium.
know so much. You walk around Russia and you could ask somebody, do you know what deuterium is? And they'll be like, the heavy isotope of hydrogen. You walk around here in California and you'll be like, well, we're in Las Vegas.
Well,
what's deuterium?
it's cool.
Most people are like, what the hell are you talking about?
I think their schooling's a little more focused on science. Yeah. yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's important that I think everybody should know their science, at least the basic science.
Yeah. Yeah,
Periodic-
education is everything. I mean, being educated really helps us to understand so we can make good choices.
So we can
for
make good
ourselves.
choices. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Get the right factual information, so you can make the right choices.
Okay, so this wasn't discovered till the 30s. Now it's discovered.
Then, yeah, it wasn't discovered in the 30s. Then the 50s, they figured they didn't publish till 1961. The Russians, Americans published in '63, and then they published again in 1970 in Nature. So this has been known about for a while.
Yes, it was published in Nature magazine in the 70s.
In 1970,
Yeah.
yeah. So this has been known about, but there was no way. In fact, they had a conference in 1973 at Argonne National Laboratory, all the physicists, and it was a conference on isotopes, and
Okay.
deuterium was a big focus.
Yeah.
And when you read the minutes of their conference, they contemplate, well, deuterium's twice the mass, yes. Kinetic isotope effect, it dissociates 9 times slower, yes. Has no biological benefit, true. So it's really bad for us, yes. Deuterium is the anti-life element. Okay, knowing that, moving on.
Next. Okay, yeah. So it was because they didn't know how to remove it. I mean, it's such a laborious process.
To make a gallon of deuterium-depleted water 20 years ago, that gallon would have cost you a couple grand.
Yeah, so that's why people are just like, okay, let's not really think about it because it's almost impossible. At that point, they didn't know how to remove it, and it's like 3 drops per glass. Okay, whatever. Let's just not think about it.
And a lot of researchers at that time, and even to this time, are working in a vacuum.
Yeah.
So they're not cross-correlating other
Yeah.
people's research or other scientists.
Got a lot of scientism happening.
A lot of scientism, yeah.
Yeah.
But on the practical side, people say, well, where are all the studies? I say, my gosh, there's like hundreds of them.
Yeah.
They've just been done over a 60-year period.
Right.
And a lot of times you have to hunt for them. So I compiled as many of the studies as I could at deuteriumdepletion.org. So all the studies on plants, animals, and there's been some, incredible studies done on this. Like,
Yeah.
it just blew me away. It made me, I was hooked on this from 2004.
Okay.
So I've been and then we didn't start the
Victor,
company.
you're always one of those people that's like really ahead of the game on this health world. It must be a gift. You just have like this
you know what?
intuition.
It is a gift. It's like some people, they can play guitar really well.
Yeah.
In fact, I would trade that gift for the guitar. maybe. But yeah, so it's been a long journey, and then it wasn't until 2019 or late 2018 that we started this company.
Yeah.
And
So
we
this
really-
is very
it
recent.
wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't until
We're in
May
2022 now.
2019 until we sold our very first bottle of Litewater in the United States.
Yeah.
And it took almost 20 years for this factory to be built.
Wow, I was one of the first customers. I've been drinking it since 2020.
Yeah, you were one of the
Beginning of
first. Yeah, you
2020,
were.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're fast on good stuff too.
Yeah, well, I know. I I have been like so committed to it. When I go into something, I'm like, I'm never halfway. It's like either I'm going to do it all the way or don't do it at all.
That's how you get success.
There's no point.
Yeah, there's no point to do it halfway.
Yeah.
Like if you do this for a month and then stop, don't do it.
Don't do it, yeah.
Don't do it.
You're wasting your money.
You're wasting your money.
Energy, time. Like you said, it's something that needs to be committed to long term. So, okay, so the fastest way that we get our deuterium levels down is by drinking deuterium depleted water, because we're made of mostly water, and so like if we're taking in water, those molecules will always be traded out for other molecules, and so we're constantly renewing ourselves. So we want to drink deuterium depleted water. What are other ways that people can practically deplete their deuterium? You said ketogenic diet, light, exercise, all those things, but can you explain that?
Yes. So, well, when you burn fat, like your body burns fat, like if you're fasting or dry fasting, your body burns fat to create water. Mm-hmm. Okay. When you burn fat, because it's nature's strategy is to deplete the fats of deuterium and load up the carbs. So, when you when you drink sorry, I forgot. Forgot the question. What else can you do? So, a ketogenic diet, the fat, if you burn fat, that's where I was. Okay, so if you burn fat, if you burn a kilo of fat, you'll make nearly as much, almost a liter of deuterium depleted water. Because like I said, fats are depleted.
Wait,
in
let's
nature.
stop right there, because I think a lot of people might not even know this, that our bodies make metabolic water every single day. Some people don't even know that. Yeah. Okay, so let's back up then.
So the water that we have in our mitochondria is not the water that we drink.
Which our bodies are making this beautiful,
they synthesize it,
structured deuterium depleted water through the hydrogen that we're eating, the oxygen we're breathing. It's coming together. Our cells.
The process of making energy also produces metabolic water.
The process of ATP synthase is making metabolic water inside of our cells. And
that's right.
The most beautiful form of water ever. So
and that water gets recycled.
We want to upgrade how much of that we're making.
Absolutely.
And we're doing that.
Yes.
Ketogenic diet helps that, is what you're saying?
Absolutely. Because the fat, not only does fat produce more ATP than glucose, it also is depleted in deuterium, or slightly depleted.
Yeah.
So when you burn fat, you produce metabolic water, which is deuterium depleted.
So fasting would be another.
Fasting is another one, because in the fasting you're burning your fat for water.
Yeah.
Same thing. Fasting is another one. Sunlight exposure, because it makes your mitochondria spin faster, or the motors in the mitochondria spin faster. So it lowers the viscosity of the metabolic water, so more ATP can be produced. So there's definitely strategies that you can do to slightly lower your deuterium. You could go live in an environment where you have slightly lower deuterium.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, like
if you're looking for
Colorado.
if you're looking for a new place
in LA.
If you're looking for a new place to move, make that one of the things that you look at. You know. I
wonder if the blue zone areas, if they tested the deuterium levels there, if they would be lower too. That'd be an interesting thing to find out.
Depends where. Like the blue zones that would be on islands, they wouldn't have, their deuterium wouldn't be any lower.
Okay.
No, there would be something else, some other factor in their longevity.
Okay.
A lot of longevity is genetic too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
And there are other
mindset,
lifestyle.
There's so much.
Yeah. Stress. Yeah.
But the deuterium is another aspect of it.
Interestingly enough, there was a study that was done by my colleagues where they got all the measurements as much as they could of tap water in the United States, the deuterium levels in tap water in all the states they could. There was, I think, 3 or 4 that they couldn't. And then they correlated that to depression.
Interesting.
So it was statistically relevant
that
people that had, or people living in places that had higher deuterium in their water were more susceptible to depression. At least they were higher. This was a study just basically done on existing data. Existing data of people that were suffering from depression and tap water.
Okay.
And they said, places that had lower deuterium had less instances of depression. And this has to do with deuterium being heavy. It just drags you down, so to speak.
I mean, I feel that in my experience after doing it for about 2 years now, drinking deuterium depleted water exclusively, I feel lighter, and it also feels like mentally a lot of that fog is less. Mental fog. I mean, obviously, I do so many things to upgrade
Sure,
my health,
sure.
so it's always hard to say, like, is it this one thing? But I really do believe that the deuterium depleted water has definitely helped me feel lighter.
It does. It works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just makes things easier because you're assisting your mitochondria. Now
Yeah.
you're active participant in your
I
mitochondrial
feel like my
health.
recovery time is so much
faster.
less.
Much
Yeah,
faster.
it's like
Much faster.
when I work out, I mean, as you age, it's like your your recovery time seems to be like so much longer. I would get so tight in my body, and now I'm like, I don't even feel that.
My recovery time is
Literally, like the
so
next day I
fast.
could go back to the gym and work out just as hard. And
My recovery time is like a teenager now.
yeah, I don't need these like in between days like I did. I would need like 2 or 3. If I did a hard workout before, I'd need like 2 or 3 days just to rest, get a massage in between, get my body smoothed out because it was like so much contraction.
Yeah.
And now it's like I literally can go back the next day just as hard, and it's not
Yeah.
a problem.
This is what everybody that is deuterium depleted says.
Yeah.
While we're here at the Biohacking Congress, there's a somebody doing vital scan. Did you go do it?
No,
You should do
with
it while you're
HRV.
here. Yeah, you should do it.
Yeah, I should definitely
It
do
was really interesting because Robert and I both did it, and we were both like 100% and everything.
Wow.
Like I'm 50, but my age was 30
Yeah.
on the machine, and my stress level was 5, and it starts
Unbelievable.
measuring at 10.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's nothing. I don't do much different than anybody else does.
Yeah.
So it has to be the deuterium depleted,
Yeah.
the body being deuterium depleted.
Yeah.
So you're able to manage stress a lot better when you're deuterium depleted because you have less stress on the mitochondria.
It feels so good, right? Because we live in a stressful world, and people say like, "Don't stress," or "How do you de-stress?" It's like
just
that's
manage
not really
it.
Possible.
You just
We're in a
manage it.
world where there's stressors on us all the time. But how do we manage that stress, and what do we do with it? How do we take it and alchemize it and turn it into something beautiful and transmute that energy instead of saying, because energy can't be created or destroyed, right? Just changed or shifted. So we want to say, okay, this is coming at me. How do I transmute this, alchemize it, make it into something that can be used in this positive energy?
How do I make it just bounce off?
Yeah, I mean, or we can use it in a good way, and I think that, I feel like that's possible. I feel like over the past couple of years of using deuterium depleted water, the things I've seen, not just physically, because my goal for being healthy isn't to become immortal. I know that's not possible. Our bodies are not immortal. It's not to live forever. My goal is that I want to be more connected to spirit, and I want to be more just in tune and in line and have more wisdom with what the potential is there. And I really feel like the cleaner you get, the more that you can have these downloads. And I noticed the more toxic I was, the more disconnected I was from really connecting to divine, connecting to creator, connecting and just hearing. It was more of like an internal type of transaction happening as opposed to really connecting with spirit more. And it just feels different. It feels like I feel more grounded, not as affected by the things that are happening around me, but more like, all right, I feel protected. I feel connected in a way that I think the toxins and that heaviness keeps you numbed out in certain ways.
I agree with that. Yeah. If you have a healthy, strong aura, then you can, then you're a more spiritual individual. You have the potential to be a more spiritual individual because you're not so focused on externals anymore, right?
Yeah.
If you feel good,
Yeah.
you're gonna sit with that.
Yeah,
You
you
can
can
own
be
it.
still
You
more.
can be still more.
Sit in the
Right.
stillness and
Right.
just enjoy that. Oh, it's so
Yeah.
juicy.
Yeah, like in yoga, the reason you do all these asanas for years is for only one reason. So you can meditate in stillness without having any pain in the body or having any body signals come into your brain saying this hurts, that's not right, I got a block here. But when you're freed up from that, then you can really be in the present.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is one of those biohacks that achieves this, or at least it has for me. It sounds like it has for you too.
Yeah, it's interesting being at the Biohacking Congress and thinking about, okay, so many people are so concerned with longevity and all these things, and I think the way that I look at it is I really care about health and wellness, and it's very important to me, and I'm committed to it. But it's not so much for this mortal body. I want to take care of it, but it's more so that I can be clear. Because when you're in pain, or when
Right.
your body's laden down by chemicals, that's all you can think about. You're in this body, and that's all you can feel. And you disconnect from that ability to connect to divine. I mean, it's kind of like the reason why we fast is because when we're digesting food in our body, we're like connected to our stomach and all this blood's rushing there. But when you're fasting, it's not going there anymore. It can go more to the brain, and the mind
Where you
can
put
get
the
more
focus.
connected.
It's where you put the focus.
And then you're able to be like, oh my gosh, I didn't think of that, or I'm seeing things differently. I'm having this different perspective, and it's not the outward perspective that people are giving you. It's actually, we're spiritual light beings, and we're able to connect with that true essence more, because we're not so laden down with the toxins of this world, or the caustic salt.
Yeah, things are better when you're lighter.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great name for the water, Litewater. Thank you so
In fact, what
much
it is,
for
yeah.
sharing it. So, if people want to drink Litewater and deplete their deuterium levels, how do they get Litewater?
Drinklitewater.com.
Okay.
Litewater.
Yeah.
We also have a testing lab, deuteriumtest.com, so you can test your saliva and see if it's working.
Yeah, and so mine was 150, and now it's 98. So I've been committed to it, and that's pretty significant.
That's pretty
shift.
good. That's pretty good, because we're really going for about 120.
Yeah.
So if you go below that, you get some more incremental benefit.
Right.
But the bulk of the benefit is from that. When you go down from 150 to in the 120 range.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get more benefit, slightly more. That, like I said, the bulk of the benefit is in the beginning. But I'm also 100 ppm, and I got down to 80 ppm, and I prefer 100 better.
Really?
Yes.
And why is that? Tell us why.
Well, if I was training for some athletic event, then I would want to be at 80. But for a guy that sits in front of his computer most of the day,
You don't want that much energy?
Too much energy.
Yeah, it is a lot of energy. I love it. I love feeling more energized. All right, Victor. Well, this was a fun conversation.
This was
Thank
fun,
you for
yeah.
sharing.